Jordan and Gretzky, Serena and Ruth. Remembering great ones is easy to do.
But what about the no-names who spent their whole lives long snapping footballs and catching sack flies? They're guys, remember that guy. Remember that guy, remember that guy, remember that guy, remember that guy.
They're just gonna remember some guys now.
2 full games and another period here. When you add it all up, Dubois scores! The Quebec native makes history as the Victoire take down the Charge. And remember that guy, the show where we mine our memories for nuggets of nostalgia about peripheral players, past and present. Hey, there, folks! It's me, one of your hosts, James, alongside someone who I know is also ready to go for nearly 2.5 hours.
We can go 2.5, we can go 5, we can go... I hope I never have to go 5 for a marathon. That's probably too far. But I am Diaz. I am back with you once again. And we have a very special guest for us for this episode. He is the person who would go to a 7th overtime. Please introduce yourself.
Oh, God. 7 overtimes? I think if I were to lose... I'm thinking back to the Rangers against the Kings. Was it 3 overtime losses, including a double overtime loss? And then, obviously, losing the last game in overtime as well. I think 7 overtimes, I might actually just be dead afterwards. So hopefully it never comes to... Honestly, the players would probably be dead too. It would probably make for some really bad hockey.
They were like drinking pickle juice in the benches during this Victoire Charge game. On that topic of 7 overtimes, just quick fun fact that I looked up related to this game. We are referring to one of the recent PWHL playoff games between the Montreal Victoire and the Ottawa Charge, in which it did go to a 4th overtime. The Victoire, who won an hour and 46 minutes of game time between goals. Imagine doing that and winning the game. It did go to 4 overtimes, only the 3rd longest pro hockey playoff game ever, because there were 2 NHL ones in the 1930s that, if they were formatted the way they are formatted today, would have gone to 6 OT. So 7 OT would be like full stop a record. But in both of those 1930s games, it was the same home goalie, Lawrence Shabbat, for 2 different teams. One of them was Toronto, and the other one was Montreal in the longest game ever, just like this Montreal game. So that's just some fun facts from the PWHL playoffs, which have been delightful. I wonder if there's anything else delightful making memories for the two of you right now.
Well, in sticking with the topic of playoffs, but going across the pond, it is currently promotion season in the European football leagues, and in particular in England. And 2 playoffs of note that I want to just bring up. First of all, the championship playoff for the 3rd promoted team that will go up to the Premier League for next year. I did not get to watch any of it, though I was kept up to date by our soccer group chat. It was Sunderland who held a 2-1 lead coming back home to the Stadium of Light. All they got to do is not lose, and they do lose in regulation. But because of the wonderful 2-legged format, because they only lost by 1, it means it goes to extra time at the Stadium of Light to determine who advances from the 2-legged tie. And it was on the literal last head of the game, because it wasn't the last kick. The last kick was the corner that was played in. And it was Dan Ballard, who is a former Arsenal man.
Hale End boy, joined the Arsenal Academy when he was 8, was with Arsenal for 15 years before they let him go. I think he played like 2 Europa League games. But still, Arsenal boy, born and bred.
He was born and bred. He is unfortunately now Mackem scum. But he is Mackem scum that headed in on the last play of the game to send Sunderland to Wembley for the championship playoff final, where they're going against Sheffield United, who have been like the ultimate yo-yo club over the past 4 years. I think it's been consecutive up, down, for the past 4 years at this point. So, as much as I hate Sunderland, I do say, bring them on up. Let's get the Derby days going again. Let's get the Tyne-Wear Derby going. Because Newcastle will absolutely fucking slaughter them. I mean, we're one of the best teams in Europe, and they are, again, Mackem scum. So, I'm getting my hate off on that one, but I am currently eagerly awaiting the second leg of the League 2 playoff final, or playoff semifinal, I should say. League 1, who gives a shit? Whatever. We already have Birmingham, Tom Brady's club, and Wrexham going up. I couldn't even tell you who's playing in the league.
I think it's Leyton Orient is one of them, but I can't remember the other.
Leyton Orient.
Charlton versus Leyton Orient.
Okay, the two clubs whose existence I just learned about. But if you've been listening to this podcast, you're not about to just learn for the first time about AFC Wimbledon because they are in the League Two playoff right now. And in the first leg of the semifinal, they were away. They got a dramatic, I believe, 81st minute goal to go up 1-0. They are coming back home for the second leg to their stadium, which about a week after I went to a game at it, absolutely cratered and became like a golf course. It looked like bunkers. It was horrible. I may or may not have had anything to do with it. Cannot confirm or deny. But that pitch is good to go now, and it is going to host a second leg of a playoff semifinal. If they win that, potentially going to go against Walsall, which is just a hilarious name for a team. And that final would also be at Wembley, so we could see the Dons return to League One, or the Wombles. I do think Wombles is the preferred nickname of this podcast for AFC Wimbledon. But there's a strong chance, if they can just protect their home turf, and not just in a metaphorical sense, but in a literal sense. As long as that field does not collapse again, and the team does not collapse on it, we could see the Dons going to Wembley for a promotion to League One. It's awesome. It's amazing. And just to bring in a brief NBA mention, the lottery happened. The lottery was amazing. The lottery party was amazing. The Sixers kept the pick. They jumped. They made it to the commercial. But with yet another lottery having major suspicion, I'm not going to directly say that it was rigged. I'm not going to say it wasn't rigged. But it spurs the debate again of how do we solve tanking. And the way that we solve it is that if you suck too much, you go down to a lower division. They figured it out everywhere else. We need to bring Pro Rel to America in all of our leagues. Imagine a situation where
the Norfolk Tides replace the Baltimore Orioles.
Right. No, here's the thing. The Norfolk Tides also suck shit now.
Baseball, in theory, has that structure in place already where you could just all of a sudden say, okay, all of the different minor league teams, if you really, major league team, if you really like your guy, call him up, because otherwise these become their own franchises. Imagine the Clearwater Threshers, a single-A Phillies affiliate, crawling their way up and making it to major leagues. We're already kind of there with the Athletics playing at a minor league stadium for the next 3 years. The Rays are playing at a spring training facility. Why not? Go full Pro Rel. Do it, Rob Manfred. You coward. You don't think baseball matters anyway, so why not get crazy?
Yeah, baseball in America sucks right now. X, if you don't mind, I'll piggyback off that a little bit. Baseball in America sucks, like I said, so I'm not paying attention to it right now. Instead, I have turned my eyes over to the KBO because there's two historic cappers to careers that are happening right now that I've become very interested in. At the plate, there's a guy named Choi Jeong, who has played for a team formerly known as the SK Wyverns, now known as the SSG Landers, for his whole career since 2005. And he's got a couple notable records. One of them, as far as I can tell, is a pro baseball world record. He passed Major League Baseball's Huey Jennings hit by pitch record in 2021 when he took his 288th beanball. He's all the way up to 349 now on those in his career. 11 seasons with 20 or more.
I love that. You think it's because he's really good at crowding the plate or because he's a real piece of shit?
By all appearances, he's not a piece of shit, so let's go with the other one. There is a more, prestigious record he has. Last year, he became KBO's home run king when he hit his 468th. He did eventually hit 469. Nice. In fact, just this week, as we record this, on May 13th, he became the inaugural member of the 500 home run club in KBO, a 43-year-old league that does finally have a 500 home run hitter in it. And it's particularly impressive given that his career is very Hank Aaron-esque. Hank Aaron always had kind of between 25 and 40 home runs every single year. And the way he became the home run king was just by doing that every single year. Meanwhile, on the mound, I'm going to mispronounce this one. I'm very sorry. Yang Hyunjong has been with the Kia Tigers since 2007, except for a single season in 2021 with the Texas Rangers before he immediately moved back. He is a two-time Choi Dong-won Award. That is the Korean equivalent of the Cy Young or the Eiji Sawamura in NPB. And that includes a 2017 year where he won that award. He won the MVP. He won the Korean Series with the Tigers. He was the Korean Series MVP. Huge, huge season for him. But again, you get the cappers late in your career. And last year, June 6th, 2024, he became the second ever KBO pitcher with 2,000 strikeouts before 2 months later on August 21st, taking the top spot with his 2,049th strikeout before he then won a third Korean Series with Kia Tigers. They are the Yankees of the KBO, if you're not aware. He's having a pretty bad season this year. He's had 8 games that he started so far, 5.79 ERA. Does have 35 strikeouts, meaning that he currently has a KBO career total of 21.07 plus 25 for MLB. And the reason in particular that I'm interested by this is it's very rare for the all-time strikeout leader of a high-level professional league to be playing at the same time as the all-time home run leader, because these are difficult records to get. Do you guys have any idea the last time that happened in Major League Baseball?
The last time it would have been true in MLB. I mean, you would have to be when Babe Ruth was around. It would have to be like Babe Ruth and actual Cy Young.
Okay. Babe Ruth did not overlap with actual Cy Young. Cy Young was long gone by the time Babe Ruth came.
They're old guys.
Walter Johnson.
It is. So you are correct, Diaz, that it was Babe Ruth. And Xavier, you were correct that Walter Johnson was the leader.
Yay!
Now, to be fair, I will clarify. Nolan Ryan and Hank Aaron's careers did overlap. Nolan Ryan did not become the strikeout leader until after Hank Aaron had retired. So just in case anyone wants to yell in the comments about that, feel free to still yell at us. You can find all the info at bit.ly/remember that guy, all one word, all lowercase. But the last time that the active home run, the active strikeout leaders were operational in Major League Baseball at the same time, it was 1921. That's when Babe Ruth became the home run leader after Walter Johnson had already surpassed. Anyone? Strikeout king before Walter Johnson? One of the inaugural members of the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Actual Cy Young.
We were looking for Christy Mathewson. Mathewson was the one before that. They were both at the peak of their powers, Johnson and Ruth. They continued for quite some time. But I do find it interesting. I said the KBO, it's a 43-year-old league, and this is happening now. If you go by when the National League started in 1876, Major League Baseball was in its 45th season when that happened, when those two linked up. For the record, one last note on these little overlaps. In NPB, they experienced this very briefly with teammates. Sadaharu O became the home run leader in 1968. And at the time, he was on the Yomiuri Giants with a guy named Masaichi Kaneda. And Masaichi Kaneda, he was at the tail end of his career at this point. He is regarded as one of, if not the best pitchers of all time in NPB. But he was with the Giants for a little bit before O continued to play into 1980, for much, much longer. However, while they overlapped in 68, they did get one more season. The last season that this happened in Japan was 1969.
Very nice.
So that's what's making memories for me. Again, because there is no fun baseball here in the United States of America as far as I'm concerned, but there is some fun stuff in Korea. Both these guys getting pretty old. Probably not going to be a distinction that they get to hold together while being active for much longer, but let's enjoy it while we can. Xavier, what are you enjoying right now while we can?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm enjoying it, but it is making memories, and it's FIFA continuing to be just total pieces of shit. Honestly, it's kind of refreshing to know that some things never change, and that FIFA can always be counted on to be terrible. This one is certainly something. I don't know how many people saw it, but last week or so, Gianni Infantino was in America to meet with Trump ahead of the 2026 World Cup. We had J.D. Vance joking about arresting and throwing in torture chambers people who come to visit for the World Cup if they overstay their visa, which is the exact type of language I want used on a public broadcast about being excited for a thing where people from hundreds of countries around the world will be coming to America to try and enjoy a sport. Yeah, definitely want that.
Hopefully they don't. Hopefully they don't come to America, and hopefully America's team gets fucking stomped into the ground.
I mean,
Penguins from the Solomon Islands better look out.
It's certainly possible that people don't come in, because there are some countries that have qualified where visa applications to come to the U.S. take 2 to 3 years, and it's literally impossible for them to come to the U.S. by 2026 at this point. But that's not what I want to talk about. This week was the annual FIFA Congress. This happened in Paraguay this week. The Congress is the big annual meeting of members from every single FIFA nation, all 211, I believe, of them. And it's like a big conference, speeches, everything. And before that, there's also the FIFA Council meeting, which is the big meeting between the, I believe it's 37 FIFA members, 37 members, including the president. And they're the ones who decide all of the big changes for the upcoming year. And this meeting was supposed to be in Paraguay on Tuesday. Last week, Gianni Infantino changed it from a meeting in Paraguay on Tuesday to a virtual meeting on the previous Friday. The reason why? Because he was hanging out in Saudi Arabia with Mohammed bin Salman and Donald Trump. He said that it's important for him to be at these events with people who are going to be running the World Cup, because it's his job to keep, a good relationship with them. But it certainly looked to everyone in the world like he was just enjoying the perks of hanging out with dictators in the Middle East and ignoring his actual job. So we had that change from the FIFA Council meeting from Tuesday to last Friday virtually. Then the main Congress was today, with a big intro dinner yesterday, Wednesday. Again, this is something that the FA that is hosting spends a shit ton of time and money getting ready for, to host people from literally every single country. Gianni Infantino does not show up to the Wednesday dinner. Thursday, he's supposed to be there to start everything off, kick off the FIFA Congress at 10:30 in the morning. He does not show up because he is still out partying in the Middle East, essentially. After 3 hours, the leaders of UEFA all get up and just leave. They're like, this is fucking insane. Like, this is the most disrespectful thing that, we've seen. It's he just doesn't want to come. They, in their more political statement, they said that the quote deeply regrettable late timetable change was due to, quote, what appears to be simply to accommodate private political interests, which put football's interests second. And I mean, it's hard to deny that, because he was just out partying and, being feted by Donald Trump and Mohammed bin Salman in Saudi Arabia, and also going to visit Qatar again, who hosted the World Cup 3 years ago, are not doing it again, but he just likes going out and hanging out with them because they pay for him to do whatever the hell he wants. And it's kind of wild to remember now, think about now, because Infantino was supposed to be the reform candidate after Sepp Blatter was ousted for being the most corrupt individual in the world. And somehow Infantino is even worse at it. But because he has such good relationships with the Middle East and Asia and Africa, which have an outsized vote on everything because just the number of countries in those confederations, he can ignore South America, Europe, and North America, who are essentially the three kind of biggest confederations, because they have less individual people when every country gets one vote. So FIFA just does not work right now. The president doesn't care. He just wants to hang out with the dictators. The European and North and South American confederations all hate him, but they have no power to get rid of him. And it's just a massive shit show. And I love that it's a massive shit show, because FIFA should always be a massive shit show. And that will never change. In 80 years from now, we will have someone else being insanely corrupt about FIFA, and it's good to know that that will still be there.
So, genuine question from a less knowledgeable football person, though a burgeoning fan. Like, was there any reality to that image of Infantino as a reformer coming in, and he has just been, like, massively corrupted by the power that he holds now? Or is this just a case of, like, mask off the second he had it?
I think it's kind of mask off the second he got it. So he was first elected president of FIFA in 2016. And this was at a special, quote, it's called Extraordinary Congress. And the only two real candidates were Gianni Infantino and one of the royal family members of Bahrain. So it was literally like oil dictator or Gianni Infantino. And they said, oh, well, Gianni Infantino, you know, at that point he was criticizing the US for the Muslim bans and everything. Like, oh yeah, he's actually going to be, you know, a good guy. And then within a couple of years, he's implicated in the Panama Papers. He accepts an Order of Friendship medal from Vladimir Putin. He kind of talks shit about not caring about all the migrants dying in Qatar. Sweeps that under the rug. Did that again this week with Saudi Arabia, and has essentially just become like as connected as possible with the Middle East in oil money, and really just cozying up to dictators kind of all over the world. So we don't know if there was ever really a, you know, actual reform candidate stuff under it, or if he just said that to get elected. But it did not last very long. I mean, he's breached FIFA ethics a bunch of times at this point, but no one really cares.
I simply can't believe that someone would lie about things to get elected. That's far beyond the pale. Here's the one thing that I'll say is very enjoyable about Gianni Infantino. I know it's spelled Gianni. I like that when you say it out loud, it sounds like Gianni Infantino, you know, that guy from on the shore. This is some fucking New Jersey douchebag.
I'm Corruptin here.
Well, with those memories made, folks, it is time to turn our eyes towards season 13. Remember that guy. We are here. We made it. Welcome. We're happy to have you. And we are going to take a moment now to explain why this one is going to be a little bit different. And perhaps subsequent ones will also be a little bit different. We don't know how long this change will last, necessarily. Season 13 is going to have a slightly altered format. We are still going to run this basically as 10, like, quote-unquote normal episodes, in which guys are presented for 9 of them, and then on the 10th one, there is a look back on the previous 9 and kind of a review of what all we've done. However, given that, as we keep mentioning, Xavier and I have children now, we don't have quite as much time for this as we used to. We still very much want to do it, so we're going to still keep meeting to do this, but when we do, we will be discussing a guy per week. Just the one guy, all for 9 episodes based around the same topic. We've got one category, and each of us will take turns presenting 3 different guys one at a time. We'll figure the order out eventually, figure out how we want to split that up necessarily, the, you know, ABC rotation or whatever. But basically, each of us will eventually have 3 guys that we present, and then at the end of the season, instead of re-litigation, we're just doing litigation now. We're losing the re. It's like the Facebook. Get rid of the. At that time, we will figure out our inductions. But for the time being, we're just going to go one by one, sharing some guys based around a new category for this season. And in order to carry some of our legacy from season 12 over, Xavier, you were, you know, fucking 3 months ago at this point, the most recent successful litigant. Let's hear what we are going to be discussing this season.
So the category for this season is guys who broke their sport. I can't claim full credit for this. This was James's idea. I just liked it. And a good example that I think is helpful to kind of explain my thoughts on this. There was one guy who I originally had looked at, a little too short to be a full one, but his name is John Twariki Delamere, and he was a long jumper from New Zealand who went to Washington State University. and working with a Washington State biomechanical professor, he realized that you can get much farther long jumping if you do a somersault midair.
It's an easy cheat code. I don't know why everyone wasn't doing it sooner. Simply do a somersault in the middle of the air.
They all the physics of it are actually really impressive, where you essentially become so much smaller in the air that you travel much further. The problem is, if you land wrong, you can snap your neck. So within one single year, World Track and Fields banned that from being able to be used again. So he never really got to use it in actual competitions, and kind of retired to become a politician in New Zealand. But if that had been allowed to stand, it would have broken the sport of long jump. So we're thinking kind of along the lines of people who did something in such a way that it changed their sport entirely. Whether it be bad or good, they just kind of broke what was previously there. So turning to my actual first guy this week, we spoke a lot about bowling the past couple weeks because of Pete Weber's long run in our
Pete Weber fucking your girl.
Specifically Ben Zobrist's wife. So I thought, what better way to kick off this new season and this new format than by talking about the guy who GQ named, quote, the man who broke bowling. And that man is Jason Belmonte.
I will admit, I don't believe I've ever heard this name before in my life.
Which is very interesting to me as someone who knows that you have looked into bowling before for RTG. So let's get into it. Jason Belmonte was born July 29th, 1983 in Orange, New South Wales, down under in Australia. James, I need you to hit it.
Crikey!
Love it. So his parents, despite having very limited knowledge of the game at this point, opened a bowling alley right before he was born. You know, it's just that time. It's the early 80s. Bowling's popular, and so they thought we could make money in a career opening a bowling alley despite not knowing really how to bowl. But because they opened this and Jason is then born, he grows up on the lanes. Like many young bowlers, when he was a toddler, Jason could not throw a bowling ball with one hand. They're heavy, so he used two hands to roll it down the lane. You know, this is a pretty standard progression. You start with the two hand, then you go to one hand, and then you start doing the spins and shit.
Yeah, it's the bowling equivalent of the granny free throw shot.
Exactly. When he was 7, he starts trying to bowl one-handed, and according to him, it just sucked. So he stopped after 10 minutes. So he kept bowling two-handed. And he came into a lot of criticism, even at this young age, with older bowlers in youth tournaments calling him a cheat. Because people didn't like his bowling style at all, Belmo, as he has since been nicknamed, was unable to find a coach or really integrate into the bowling community. But he continued to bowl. He continued to bowl the way that he liked. Then when he's 16, he's at a tournament in Brisbane, and he meets Tim Mack, who at that point was one of the best amateur bowlers in the world. Mack says, quote, so he stands in the back of the approach and runs to the front and throws, carrying the ball with two hands, and all these pins go flying. I looked at my future wife and said, what the hell is that? Clearly he can't do that again. And he did it again. And I said, holy shit, I've never seen anything like that. So at this point, I want to further explain Belmo's style, as it can be hard to understand without seeing it.
Yeah, like, I can't imagine how you get spin on it. Like, I understand how you are delivering the ball with force. That makes sense. But how are you getting it?
I don't think you do at this point, James, which is why I'm going to explain it. So, as I said before, if you've watched any sort of high-level bowling, you know, you can picture bowler raising their ball to chest level with their thumb and two other fingers in the holes. They drop the non-dominant hand off, swing back, and then release as it comes forward with, you know, a little bit of a flick so that the ball spins, you see the leg kick out, and you get that nice spin. I like to bowl as a hobby. I can't do that, but I know Jake Adams is probably listening, and he can do that. So, Jake, if I get anything wrong, please call in and tell me how incorrect I am. But the way that Belmo does it is very different. So he starts with his right hand holding the ball, but only 2 fingers in the holes. His thumb is not in the hole. It's on the ball itself. His left hand is on the top of the ball. And then he brings the ball into his side. He just lets the momentum swing out, and right before the ball is released, pulls his left hand off and does kind of at least when he was younger, did a little bit of like a jump after it. It's a weird distinction to make for anyone who isn't a bowler, but technically this is called a two-handed approach and not a two-handed delivery, since the top hand does come off right when the ball is released. The advantage of this is that because your thumb is not in the hole, you can create much more significant spin on your roll, which makes the ball much faster than average. Eventually, they measure this through revolutions per minute, and at one point, his RPM is 600 plus compared to around 350 to 400 for like actual other PBA professionals. And so I'm going to send the two of you a slow motion of his bowling release now so you can kind of see it. And this is after he becomes a professional, so he's had more time to refine it. It's a little less wonky than when he was a kid, but it's still a good little, short little slow-mo video so you can kind of get a better understanding.
Okay, yeah. It's like the hand goes from under to the side and then applies the spin at the last second.
Yeah, he is not held on to the granny between the legs image that I had. So I admit, I was a little wrong there.
So now that you've seen what this looks like, I'll talk a little more about it. So, like I told you what the advantage is. You generate a lot more spin, a lot more RPM, which makes your bowling much faster. The downside is because of the way that you're pulling it in and spinning it, it is a lot harder to remain balanced. So, as Belmo did when he was younger, and as many younger bowlers do when they try to learn this way, you kind of have a little kangaroo hop. Crocky. At the end, like, you don't have that clean leg out finish that other traditional bowlers have. Also, because you're putting so much spin on it, it's a lot harder to keep the ball under control. So it can kind of go anywhere if you have it wrong, which, could end up in the gutter, bouncing over into someone else's lane. So you have to be careful with it. So now that we know that, let's get back to the story. Mac helps Belmo get a sponsorship deal, and they spend the next decade or so traveling to tournaments throughout Asia and Europe and winning a bunch of medals at youth and amateur level internationally for Australia. Finally, in 2008, the new deputy commissioner of the PBA, Tom Clark, wanted to expand the talent pool outside of America, and he gives Belmo a commissioner's exemption to compete in the PBA league that year. During that 2008-2009 season, Belmo wins one tournament, the Bowling Foundation Long Island Classic, and gets named the League Rookie of the Year. He has a rough next couple of years, but then he finally gets back on the podium in the 2011-12 season, where he wins the Chameleon Open, the Geico Shark Open, and then he wins his first major, the PBA Elite Players Championship. And from there, he really kicks on. The next season, he wins 3 more tournaments, including another major, the USBC Masters, and gets named the PBA Player of the Year for the first time. In 2014, the PBA switches to a calendar season, and Jason kicks it off by winning back-to-back majors with the Tournament of Champions and the USBC Masters. The latter makes him the first person in 50 years to win back-to-back Masters titles. Not surprisingly, he gets named the PBA Player of the Year for the second year in a row. Next year, more of the same. February 8th, he wins the USBC Masters for a third straight season. Only one other person, Mike Albee, had ever even won the Masters 3 times, let alone do it in 3 consecutive seasons like Belmo had just done. And of course, that's not enough for him, because he then wins the Tournament of Champions the next week to retain that title as well. Once again, he wins PBA Player of the Year, becoming the 4th PBA professional to earn 3 consecutive Player of the Year awards, following Earl Anthony, who did it twice, Mark Roth, and our friend Walter Ray Williams Jr. Now, this would be really boring if I just continue going season by season, so I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to summarize that from 2017 through 2020, Belmo competes in 18 majors. He wins 7 of them and finishes in the top 4 6 other times. That 2017 season is especially noteworthy because he becomes the first PBA player to ever win 3 majors in one season with the Masters, the Players' Championship, and the World Championship. Now, you might think he's too good to Guy. We've had the line before. Bowling might be, I think, is one of those spots where even if you're the best, you probably are still a Guy. And he is technically still active, but at this point, he only has 1 title in the past 2 years, and it was a doubles tournament. So I think we're in a good place where we can really reflect on his career and his legacy. So overall, he's won 32 PBA Tour titles, which is 7th all time. He has a record 15 majors, which is 5 more than second place Pete Weber and Earl Anthony. He's only the second player ever after Mike Albee to win each major at least once. And he has 7 Player of the Year awards, tied for first with Walter Ray Williams Jr. He's also the first player to have 3 separate televised PBA 300s, aka during a televised PBA tournament, he rolled a 300. So, that they don't televise that many tournaments, so and the qualifyings, they don't really televise either, and there's a lot of qualifying for tournaments. It's pretty rare that it's happened. I believe there's only been like 36, 37 of them, and he has 3 of them. But all of this just shows that he's really good, which is not the topic today. So let's go back to discuss just how Belmo broke the sport of bowling. As I mentioned earlier, people did not like Belmo when he was younger. Some people claimed to not like his personality, but it really seemed that they disliked his bowling style so much that they used anything else as a pretext to hate him. Belmonte once compared it to politics, saying, quote, "To a degree, it's almost like politics. You're either on board with two-handed style or you're not. And when you're not, you become quite aggressive toward it, you become quite negative toward it, and you tend to start fights about it on the internet." And he's very right in that. I looked at a bunch of Reddit threads on r/bowling, and every once in a while that comes up, and people get heated. But I'll give a couple of more professional examples of this phenomenon. So in 2011, Sean Rash, who at that point was one of the top bowlers on the tour, and who Belmonte will beat multiple times, claimed that Belmonte was crinkling his plastic water bottle as a distraction during his approach. And Rash, after one particularly good bowl, yelled at Belmonte, "Take that, you bottle bitch."
Go through it. Take that, you bottle bitch! Come on! What with everybody? Come on! Let's go! Let's have some fun!
So
He, in the heat of the moment, called him bottle bitch. I do believe that he was hearing a water bottle, whether that was something he made up just to hate this guy because he already hated him, that's neither here nor there. You don't say bottle bitch out of nowhere if you weren't fixating on someone's water bottle.
He was definitely fixating on it, but again, people really dislike him. His opponent for the final of the 2012 Players' Championship, which, as we already talked about, was Belmo's first major, was a man named Mike Devaney. In a pre-match interview, Devaney said in regards to Belmo, quote, "I throw it the right way. I put my thumb in there, the way I was taught. The way everybody should throw it. I'll show him what's up." So, of course, we know how that went for Devaney, but I just love the quote, "I put my thumb in there, the way I was taught," is a real quote from a professional athlete about throwing a bowling ball the right way.
Put my thumb in there just like my daddy and his daddy before him and his great-great-great-great-great-great-granddaddy.
PBA Hall of Famer Bill Voss said in 2016 in a Facebook post, which he then reiterated in multiple interviews, that, quote, "The ascent of two-handed bowling, in my opinion, is like a slow cancer to an already diseased sport." It really is kind of wild, just how much bowling is a sport of traditionalists and conservatism. So just bowling a different way pisses people off so much they want to fight you.
It's absurd, but this has also now brought up the one question that I've kind of had since you kicked this off. Because you're saying they're the ascendancy of two-handed bowling, not the ascendancy of Mr. Belmonte. Which would imply to me that while there's clearly a lot of vitriol against him, if we're breaking the game, like, there must be some other people that are trying to, I don't want to say take advantage of this exploit. Like, it's not an exploit, it's different, but like, are there other people that have kind of started to follow in his footsteps?
Yes. So there are other PBA professionals that have come after Jason who have done this. One notable one is Jesper Svensson, who is from Sweden and has won 13 titles, I believe. Yes, 13 PBA Tour titles starting in 2015, who has the same style. There is Kyle Troop, who is an American from North Carolina, who also came in around 2015 or so. Anthony Simonson, 2016, all kind of following that two-handed approach. But there's also, as I'll get into, a big change at the youth level. But first, I do want to give a shout-out back to Walter Ray Williams Jr., who's one of the few professionals at the time to actually think this was a good thing. Quote, I would say two-handed bowling is one of the most significant improvements in the game since I've been bowling. I mean, it's really quite a revelation. People talk about it and say they don't like it, but when bowling was first invented, there were no holes in the ball. You palmed the ball. And then someone put 2 holes in the ball. Then someone put 3 holes in the ball. And then someone tried fingertips. So it's been an evolution for 120 years or however long it's been, which is a very rational and progressive way of thinking about the evolution of a sport.
I also like that there would have been grumpy old guys from the past who would have gone up to our thumb friend earlier and be like, you stick your thumb in the ball, you fucking loser?
What do you even put it in? It's just a ball.
It was so fascinating to see the very strong opinions on this. And, you know, to put it in kind of a basketball context, because this was a quote that I saw from another PBA professional who is friends with Belmo. Quote, he didn't want to be hated, a Trae Young or Marcus Smart. He wanted to be Steph Curry, the guy who everyone loves who changes the game.
Well, it's like to the point of, you know, not considering an exploit. Like, I look at it like how Greg Popovich talks about the three-point line. He's like, look, if I had it my way, we wouldn't do it. But if we can do it, we should do it because it's just better.
So, getting back to like kind of how he actually broke the game, because if it's just him and a couple others, it really doesn't change anything that much. But Belmo, with his winning, with his style, he found that although a lot of other professionals didn't like it, it kind of broke through to the general public, at least in a way relative to most bowling professionals. So, you know, he partnered with NASCAR to do an event where he threw a 140 mile per hour strike out of the window of a race car at Charlotte Motor Speedway. He's worked with Dude Perfect on a bunch of trick shot videos. He worked to make custom Jordan 1s to raffle off for mental health organizations. And there has been a massive sea change in youth bowling participation that is directly tied to him. So in 2018, youth junior gold coach Del Warren said, quote, look at the number of two-handed bowlers in the U15 and U12 divisions at junior gold, and those numbers increase all the time. I think as kids seeing two-handed bowling, not only on television, but also at the local level, that they aspire to copy what they see. And he noted that two-handed bowlers could become the majority of pros in the next 10 years. So again, we go back to when Belmonte became the first two-handed pro on the tour. By 2018, 10 years later, at that major youth tournament, 25% of the U12 bowlers and 24% of the U15 bowlers used Belmonte's two-handed approach. So we go from one out of many to a full quarter of youth participants using it within 10 years. With, again, the thought from youth coaches that within another 10 years, it might be 50% or more. And the reason why a lot of young people are doing this, not just because they want to emulate Jason Belmonte, but because it's just a lot easier to learn to get spin on a ball if you're throwing it with a two-handed approach. So the learning curve for bowling, which is normally really high, is actually much lowered, and it increases the availability of the sport to young people. And those numbers have continued to go up over the past couple of years. I haven't seen any like new study data, but a lot of coaches are talking about how I wouldn't be surprised if in the next 3-4 years we have those U15 and U12 from 2018 break through. PBA is kind of a mid-20s. You break in as a rookie, like older rookies, so it will take a little bit of time. But in 2023, Coach Mark Baker, who also used to be a PBA professional and won 4 titles, said that, quote, "I think the two-hander may well have saved the sport because it brought in so many players." So in a way, Belmo broke bowling with his two-handed delivery because he broke the old guard. He broke the conservative thinking that limited the popularity and the accessibility of the sport. But if people like Baker are to be believed, then maybe breaking bowling was the best thing that could ever happen to it.
Can't fix something until it's broken.
Exactly.
Well, the comment by the dude who's like laying into him for ruining a sport that was already diseased and dying, or however he phrased it. Hey, buddy, if your sport that you love is diseased and dying already, you should probably try and change something about it in order to avoid that.
Yeah, I thought that was such a fascinating quote by Bill Voss, because you would think that if you love something and you think it's diseased and dying, you would want anything that could change it to maybe fix it. But no, this wasn't the right way to do it. This was just, it's more of a reason why things are, so bad. We're letting people two-hand bowl. This is what's killing bowling. It's back in my day, these people would be shot in the streets or whatever.
I wonder if there is a little like xenophobia to this as well, because like I can't think of any other well-known Australian bowlers. So it's like this guy comes from down under. He doesn't respect anything about our sport, what it's supposed to be. Like I do wonder if that plays in a little bit.
Folks, we've done it. We've made a sport where white people can be racist against other white people. English-speaking white people can be racist against other English-speaking white people.
Congrats, bowling. We didn't think it was possible.
Hang the banner. So Belmonte's still active, you say? I think we agree. We don't necessarily need to...
He's still active because, bowlers will keep bowling for a very long time. But if he had won anything really in the past year or two, I would say he's still too active to do it. But at this point, like I said, 2022, he wins 5 titles. Since then, he won 1 in March of 2023, and then no singles titles since then, just that one doubles title. And it feels like in recent interviews, he's kind of coming to grips with the fact that he's probably near the end of his top level performances.
Sure, and I mean if we're discussing these next 9 guys under the umbrella of guys who broke the game, he's made his impact. He's done the thing that broke it. Yes, he might win some more, sure. I mean, Pete Weber was on the senior circuit when we inducted him, so there is some precedent for our brief discussions of bowling here on the show before. But he did the thing that brought him to the table here, and we have a setting now at the table for him. There is a place for him to sit and be considered. Diaz, do you have any more thoughts on Jason Belmonte as we get ready to wrap here?
I mean, I just love anybody who questions or bucks tradition in any sport. I think is a person to be celebrated. And, I think we're off to a good, strong start for season 13 with this.
I mean, it feels like a very but there isn't a rule against two-handed delivery. If you didn't want your sport to have that.
Did say that. He did say that at one point. He makes that specific comment that there's no rule about it.
I'm also, it brings to mind, there was a Reddit post one time on our NBA. It was like a peak off-season post. It was like, could 2 teammates start making out under the rim to distract their opponent? I don't think there's anything in the rulebook against it. What team should employ this strategy? I mean, why not? There's no rule that says the players can't make out.
That reminds me of that other one that was what was it? Should the Sacramento Kings kill all of their players so that they get...
activate the disaster draft.
Disaster draft.
If two NBA players we're going to make out. Any two players in the NBA. Who is it? I'll throw it out there. I think I can envision a world where Victor Wembanyama and Jeremy Zohan, they've grown up European, not to be, again, xenophobic against white people. But, if I were to pick any pair, I'm going to put the very good friends, Victor Wembanyama and Jeremy Zohan, out there.
See, I'll zag a little bit. I'm going to say that it would be a psychotic competitor. So, I'm saying Draymond Green is, going full tongue with...
Actually, Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler makes a lot of sense.
They're both psychotic enough, with zero interest in it, but, if somebody pitched it to them, they'd be like, you know what? That might be just what we need. Maybe the Warriors would still be in the playoffs if Draymond and Jimmy Butler just made out a little bit.
I also like that we're immediately going to teammates. There's no even thought being given to an enemies turned lovers arc here.
I mean, I just feel like consent across the opponents, and also the benefit of distracting an opponent is lost if you do it with an opponent, because then it's an even trade-off.
I mean, I guess then, you're in the situation where where someone is grabbing an opponent to try and distract their teammate. And you're right. Then we get into the murky waters of it's a foul. And no means no. We don't want to be forcing any unwanted advances on people. I think we've landed on it. If any two NBA players are ever going to make out, it's going to be Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler.
Specifically, emo Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, he'll have one eye covered by his straightened hair.
Well, folks, don't let this discussion of NBA tongue acrobatics distract you from the fact that there's been an excellent discussion of a bowling guy, the first in our Season 13 category, guys who broke their sports. And we will return with 8 more of those in the subsequent weeks. But in the meantime, thank you, Xavier, for an excellent presentation. And thank you to producer Craig and all the coders behind him for making this possible. Thank you to musical director Don Ham for that lovely theme music. Most of all, thanks to you, dear listener, for joining us again. This is different. It's changing. We want you to stick around, but we can't make you. We're not your parents. I'm his parent, but I'm not any of your parents. Feel free to feel however you want to feel about this change, but we are excited about it. We hope you are too. You can keep up with us at bit.ly/rememberthatguy, all one word, all lowercase. You can just check us out when we return as me, your host, James.
The very special guest, Xavier.
And I'm Diaz. And as a beverage company once said, new guy formula, same great guy.
Go through it. Take that, you bottle bitch! You bottle bitch! You bottle bitch! Take that, you bottle bitch! You bottle bitch! You bottle bitch! Come on! Whoa, with everybody! Whoa, with everybody! You bottle bitch! Come on! Whoa, with everybody! Whoa, with everybody! You bottle bitch! You bottle bitch! Lots of f***ing class right there. F***ing class right there. Lots of f***ing class right there. F***ing class right there. Come on! Really, in class right there. Come on!